see it in your eye, and I'm wondering why, for it never should be there at all. But the power of your smile should have shown you the guile, and then it's never a teardrop should fall. With your sweet lilting laughter like some fairy song, and your eyes sparkling bright as can be.
Right, so this is the Harry Ferguson Mark II monoplane. He had a Mark I, which he flew on December the 31st, 1909, because he was determined to fly in the same year that Blériot flew. The Mark I was sort of successful. He even took passengers up in. There's a passenger seat in front of the pilot seat. Having taken the Mark I as far as he could go, he then started on a Mark II, and the Mark II is very much like a cut-down Antoinette, an aircraft designed by Léon Levavasseur, and he would have seen an Antoinette at various meets in the United Kingdom. He also went to France to research as well, so he did his homework before he actually started doing anything. And so this aircraft is like a cut-down version of an Antoinette. It's 10 feet shorter in length and span, which just suggests, and this is a 32 feet span, so just shows you how big the Antoinette was. And so most of his more successful flights were in his Mark II version. Now, going back to the beginning, there is a replica of a Mark II at the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum in Ulster, in Belfast. And that was built by a guy called John Cecil Kelly Rogers, who was actually Winston Churchill's pilot during the war. He would have been flying Avro Yorks for Churchill. He then joined Aer Lingus and retired in the early 70s and wanted to build something to reflect Ferguson's successes. So he set about with the plans that we've already seen. They're the only plans with dimensions on them exist in that page out of Flight magazine. So he had the span and the length and a couple of other dimensions. And he got in touch with the family and got to the family's photographic archive and started scaling up photographs that he could see, which is probably not the best way to go about it, but he did it. And then that static replica, which is partially covered on one side and open on the other so you can see the construction, is on display at this museum in Belfast. The plans for this aircraft that I'm using were drawn from that replica by an architect who had an interest in this as well. And so he has drawn up a set of plans that, myself and BBC TV some years ago used. And they're okay, but they lack considerable detail in how things actually go together, because these plans sort of simply show two pieces of wood butting together. There's no detail in metal fittings, or that's certainly not Royal Aircraft Factory plans. But there's enough, in fact, that it's good, because we've ended up on these plans, for example, with a 2-inch square rudder post with no sort of leading edge shaping to help the airflow. And so it's given me a chance to think about what we need to do and try and keep airflow onto the control surfaces, especially in the empennage. So instead of a 2-inch square rudder post, I've reduced that to about 1 inch and introduced some a bullnose on the leading edge, just to try and get some airflow through the rudder post and onto the control surfaces. So the rudders are just a pennant shape with a wire trailing edge. And when you put fabric on these and dope it, you get this sort of scalloping. I mean, it's a very attractive looking shape on these old aircraft, but it's a scalloping that reduces the actual square area of this control surface by a considerable amount. So you need all the help. These guys need all the help they can get to actually perform right. And there are two of them, as I said. There's another one here, and so I've had to make adjustments to the plans as I'm going along. But it's been interesting, and hopefully it'll give this thing a chance to perform a bit better. So the plans are kind of interesting to work with.